Today, I'm going to answer the question, is NLP the same as CBT? Thank you very much for this question that came in. Is Neuro Linguistic Programming the same as Cognitive Behavior Therapy? In a short answer, no. In a longer answer, they're similar, but with some differences. The similarities is we're looking both at the cognitive, the conscious thinking aspect behind the behavior. However, NLP takes it a little step further and starts to look at what are the unconscious patterns that hold that behavior in place. In fact, neuro-linguistic programming is much more interested in what goes beyond and below the surface, the beliefs, the concepts, the values, the programs that we run in our mind versus the behavioral aspects. Oftentimes we see a behavior if somebody is angry or sad or depressed or anxious, and we look at that simply as just the behavior, a symptom of something else deeper going on. Where CBT, Cognitive Behavioural Therapy, will help us to understand it from a very conscious and cognitive basis with the presupposition that says, when I know enough about it, it can shift. A simple example of a CBT type of technique is one that is utilized sometimes with people who are who have a fear of being rejected. So here's an example of that. One of my friends is a CBT therapist. By the way, if I didn't know NLP, I probably would have become a CBT therapist if I was going to be a therapist. And she was telling me about a client who had a fear of rejection. He didn't want to ask a girl out on a date. He didn't want to speak up in meetings. He didn't want to ask for a pay increase. He didn't want to go for a new job because he was afraid of being rejected, and for whatever reason. So her homework to him was to go to a food court at a shopping mall or wherever a food court is and go up to 5 different food stalls, maybe even 10. And you go up to the food stall, let's go to McDonald's, and you say, I'll have a pepperoni pizza. Pepperoni pizza? We don't serve pizza here. Well, okay. Go to the next one, it's the chicken shop. I'll have a pepperoni pizza. Pizza? We don't serve pizza here. Well, okay. I'll have a pepperoni pizza, you say at the Japanese restaurant. We don't have pizza here. Are you crazy? Oh, sorry. Go up to the kebab shop. I'll have a pepperoni pizza. You see this, and you go on and on and on, the next 5, the next 10, however many of these food stalls you go to, and he asked for pepperoni pizza. And each time he was knocked back because most of the time a food court doesn't have pepperoni pizza unless you go to one that has like a Pizza Hut. This one didn't. So he got rejected time and time again. And after doing that 5 or 10 times, his body, his mind started getting used to, actually, I'm okay if I get rejected. And so that's an example of utilizing cognitive behavioral therapy to be able to change a belief or change a behavior at that cognitive conscious level. If I do it enough, I will be okay. Some of the exposure therapy aspects are also CBT related techniques. There's a lot of great CBT techniques that are very, very beneficial. However, we do things a little bit different in NLP. If I'm working with a client, maybe I worked with that same client later who was afraid of rejection. I would first ask, what do you want instead? Instead of that fear of rejection, what do you want? And then I would go on a little exploration to see, is this a pattern that he's had in his life that has been there for a long time, or has it just recently started? Because that's going to give me a clue and an inkling into what to do. I want to know, how does he do it? How does he try it on? What does he believe about it? What's important of having it and not having it? How is it serving him or holding him back? What prevents him from being able to have whatever his desired state is? And then I'm going to use a variety of techniques that are probably more closed-eyed techniques, of visualization techniques. For example, I might utilize a process called parts integration. I'm sure I have a video on my YouTube channel about parts integration. Parts integration takes two opposing internal conflicting parts, a part that wants to be able to be confident even if I'm rejected, and another part that fears rejection. My guess is when we have these battling parts, they used to belong together, and we can integrate them and bring wholeness inside. If there's a pattern of this fear of rejection, I can also access and utilize a variety of timeline techniques. In NLP, we have timeline techniques that utilize a person's history. Just like history has a timeline, you do too. It marks out your past, your present, and your future. We can utilize this timeline to access those past memories and that root cause, that first event that created this pattern. Now, consciously, you probably don't know when that pattern began, but unconsciously, that unconscious mind remembers. So we can utilize one of the timeline processes. They were originally developed by Steve and Connie Ray Andreas in the 1980s. And they are part and parcel of the core techniques that are shared and taught in NLP. And I can help somebody go back and find that unconscious thread and where it began and pull it out and change it. So instead of working just with the behaviors and the cognitive concepts of it, we're working with the unconscious mind so that we can change how the neurology connects. So Neuro Linguistic Programming is understanding how the language of the mind creates the programs that we run in life. And if someone has that fear of rejection, there's probably something in their history of where that pattern began. And we can collapse the anchor, we can integrate some parts, we can travel along a person's timeline and finally change it. I don't know that one works better than the other. I think it really depends on who the client is and what they need, but there's definitely benefit to neuro-linguistic programming and absolute benefit to CBT. The choice, however, for what works best for you or what you want to learn to use with others is largely your own. If you've got more questions, let me know. Be sure to like this, share this, tell people about this, and I'll see you next time.